Hi, and welcome to this episode of John's Motorcycle Rescue and Review. Once again, I am with Kawasaki's 1978 KZ1000 Project. If you have been watching the progress on this project, you may be saying, hey John, last video, it had a lot more body work on it, the carbs were on it, it really looked like it was about ready to hit the road. While I put some parts back on it, I just simply put the carburetors on and the seat and the side panels and tail section and stuff just to check things out and to kind of get a feel for what it's going to look like when it's finished and everything. I had still not installed the Dyna S ignition, I hadn't done the wiring on the bike, and I hadn't bench run the carbs as far as like testing them to see if they were no leaks on the fuel. There was a lot of things that I needed to pull everything back off again to kind of access and kind of get back into, because the bike, I know it looked like it was ready to hit the road. There were just a lot of details that need to be tidied up, finished up, and sorted out prior to actually running this bike safely on the road. And so I don't want to get ahead of myself and just do everything in a rush to try to get this thing out on the road. I want to do it right. I want to make sure that every system that I do is 100% before I even hit that start button, because I don't want an accident out on the road. I don't want to have the bike lose power or have a fuel leak while I'm driving it, things like that. So I'm going to stop talking here. I'm going to grab the camera and we're going to just walk around the bike and look a little bit more in detail as far as the progress that has been made since our last update. All right, let's check it out. First things first here, we have put in a Dyna S ignition in the bike, and that has been, I've actually wired into the bike here. You can see where it's wired in. Later today, hopefully, I will be doing the final timing on this. I haven't set the timing yet, so these are still, this can move back and forth on the slots here. But I'll time that up, and we should be ready to go on the ignition system once I do that. We'll move up just a little bit. I have also got brand new Dyna coils on this bike and went with the Dyna ignition wires. So I have made all of those up. You have to kind of cut them to length and fabricate the end that goes into the coil. That process is also done. As far as the exhaust system goes, I have installed the clamp here that's a strap that goes around. I've installed that. And we saw in the last episode that there was no bracket going between here and up here. And so I have fabricated this guy. I had an existing bracket on the tail section of another bike that got pulled off when I did a tail tidy, and so I used that structural member and modified it pretty heavily to come up with this. But it looks nice. It's very lightweight. It is steel, it's not aluminum, so it has plenty of strength. The exhaust isn't going anywhere. It holds it in place nicely. And I will actually pull this off again and paint it black, so it looks nice when it's finished up. I want it to look very tidy in here, and I don't want it to look obvious, that I hacked something together. I want it to look like it was meant to be there. Although the bike did come with a crank breather, it did not fit the bike, and so I had to purchase a new crank breather. So I have purchased that and just set it on here for now. I'll make sure that that's tidied up and straight. I had been informed that my front fender was mounted backwards, and it's actually very, very common on these. It goes the opposite way that you would think, but it has been turned around and looks nicer now. It looks like it should, at least. I now have the sprocket cover on the bike. When I initially put this on, it pinched the sprocket and it basically locked up the rear wheel. Thankfully I tried to spin the wheel once I had everything tightened up, but it turns out that the sprocket should have a little collar on the back side of it, so I ordered up a new collar, got that installed, and with the new sprocket, so now everything is spaced accordingly where it should be this way, and gotten everything back together, and that all looks good. There's a little clip here for the new clutch cable. It runs down through, and that clip actually keeps the clutch cable itself from hitting the exhaust. Finally here, I have installed a new fuel petcock, and what I'm actually going to do, probably again later today, I will put gas in the gas tank and make sure that, even though there's a brand new petcock, I will make sure that there are no fuel leaks. When I, cycle this, I want to make sure that this, the switch cycles everything through like it should. I also want to make sure it's not leaking any gas here onto the bike. So just like with the carburetors, it's always good to put gas in the fuel tank when it's off the bike. Make sure it doesn't leak, make sure everything functions like it should. Well, a setback here is when I bench tested the carburetors. Everything looked great, no fuel coming out, except right here at this T, and it was dumping fuel here. Just dumping fuel out on both sides of the T. So that means it's about a $40 part. I've got it on order, but I've got to replace this T here. And that means I've got to pull the carbs, disassemble the whole body here as far as, pulling these off this backing plate. Hopefully that's not too extensive. I haven't done that on these particular carbs yet. They were very clean. They had been stored dry, which is great. So they weren't difficult to clean. But, stuff like this is why you test this stuff while it's off the bike, because that would have been a mess. And then it would have been wasted time and effort putting them on and then having to pull them back off again. As soon as that T comes in, we will get that installed here. And pretty much that's kind of the last thing holding things up here at this point that I know of, from me being able to actually get the bike out on a test drive. So I am very, very excited, and we'll just see. Sometimes things go to plan and it works out real easy, and other times it's a little bit more involved. But I'm hoping to ride this bike here shortly. All right, this wraps up the progress report so far on the KZ1000 project here. It's moving right along. I'm very, very pleased with the progress that's being made and how quickly it's being made. I bought this bike as a rolling chassis. The engine was not in it. And, so to have the engine in it, to have the ignition, wired up, to have the exhaust sorted out, to have all of the brake systems figured out and ready to go, the electrical systems all wired up, and I'm super happy. And we've bench run the engine at this point. We know the engine runs good and sounds good, and so it'll be, as I get this bike out on the road in the next couple of episodes here, it's going to be seeing how the transmission feels, seeing how it goes up through the revs. I anticipate maybe making some adjustments to the carburation. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how everything runs and rides and drives, but we'll go through this process together, and I hope you're enjoying this series as much as I am. And like I say, just can't wait to get this beauty out on the road. I hope you found this video entertaining and informative, and until next time, enjoy the ride.